All right. Well, we are live. So, hello everyone. We're going to be talking about design elements, and so my guest should be joining us here momentarily. But in the meantime, I just want to say hello, all the fine folks who are here joining us as part of the E-commerce Business Builders Summit. So today is day 4 of the E-commerce Business Builders Summit. So, real quick, just to make sure again, my microphone is working because I have messed that tech up before. If you don't mind, in the chat, letting me know whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, where are you joining us from? So just put, I'm joining from Ontario, I'm joining from Texas, I'm joining from Florida, wherever the case is, and just let me know where you are joining us. And then we will get started here momentarily. So thank you everyone for being here, making sure you can hear me. Again, just if you could, and who knows, I do reward participation. So make sure to put in here where you are joining, and I will probably be rewarding participation. So someone already responded, so I'll make sure to reward that person here momentarily. So I'm just setting up a couple of things here as we're getting started. So I'm also curious, for those of you who are part of the E-commerce Business Builders Summit, how are things going? So let's get started here. I'm just checking on something. And we're going to be getting started here momentarily. So I am just going to pin this to the top, and I'm going to mark that as an announcement. Sorry, just a couple little administrative tasks here. My guest hopefully should be joining us briefly, but if not, we're gonna have a good live no matter what. So I'm going to be announcing some winners here in just a second. So let me just do something here real quick. Where is that stream in the group? Make it easier for folks to find as we're joining in. So hello, everyone. Welcome for joining. If you don't mind, in the chat, if you could just let me know where you're joining from. It is always fun to know where people are. And we're going to be getting started here momentarily. Where did it go? Oh, probably an unread announcements. So we got to bring that up. Here we go. Pinning to the top. All right. So I think we have a quorum to get started. So a couple things wanted to say. Again, I would highly recommend everybody, if you can, put in the chat where you're from. So David is joining us from Oxnard, California. Do me a favor, David, send me an email. I will send you, or I won't personally send you, but I will have Joe Valley, the author of the Exitpreneurs Playbook, send you an autographed copy of his book. And then we've got Bearded Mimic joining us from Chicago. So hello from, is it the second city? Is that the name of Chicago? I was actually born in a town not too far out of Chicago, but I grew up in Texas. But always good to see Chicago folks. Sawyer Smith said the summit is amazing. So thank you for being the first person to comment on the summit. So I'm going to give you also a copy of the Exitpreneurs Playbook. I gave you something else the other day, if I remember correctly. So again, I reward participation. So who knows, maybe we'll have more participation rewarding. So, all right. So this is the Exitpreneurs Playbook, written by Joe Valley from Quiet Light Brokerage, one of our sponsors. Joe is an awesome guy. Wrote an awesome book. I've heard nothing but great things about this, and I've read through portions of it. Been a little bit tied up with putting together the summit lately, but yes. So Sawyer, if you could just shoot me a email and letting me know your address. So Sawyer said he's also joining us from Decatur, Alabama. So glad to hear that. And then we've got Usman joining us from Germany. We've got David said, awesome, thanks. I'm assuming that must be in regards to getting the book. So super excited that you were here, David. Patrick says, very valuable stuff, which maybe that was about the book, or maybe it was about the summit. But either way, thank you very much, Patrick, who is joining us from Slovakia. So we're super excited to have you joining us. It's probably getting a little later there in the day than it is here. So thank you for joining us. All right. So I'm just going to check one thing in my email real quick, just to make sure I didn't get like a last minute thing. Sometimes wires get tied up. So I know we were going to talk about design elements, which we can here, but I'm going to use this time, which Patrick said both. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you. So, all right. So, just as a reminder, if you are not yet signed up for the e-commerce business builders summit, I would recommend grabbing a ticket. So it's a whopping $7. And you can get access originally we advertised it was supposed to end today, Friday, July 30th, as I go through this. But actually, I announced the other day that we were going to extend access for the general admission ticket holders through the end of tomorrow. So till at least midnight Eastern time, my time zone tomorrow. So depending on where you're from, you can kind of play with that time zone, and maybe that helps you, or maybe you're going to be asleep at that point. But either way, you get all tomorrow to watch it as well. So at this point, we've added all of the content. I know for a lot of summits, what they do is they say, okay, here's the first day of content, and they take it away, then they add more, then they take it away, then they add more, and they take it away. I just add. So day 1, and then day 2, and then day 3, and then day 4. And so we just keep adding. So you just have more content. So I think there's 33 sessions available to you. Plus you can go back and watch the replays from, our amazing sponsors, who many of them did some live sessions to help you figure out things like, working on profitability and things of those nature, working on profitability, funding, things like, Q4 is right around the corner. So that's crazy. As well as, keywords and understanding keywords. And so, how do you position keywords for organic and paid and all that. So, we've had a lot of great discussions in the live sessions, and then as well as, we've got over 30 sessions you can check out. So if you've not yet grabbed your ticket, as I mentioned before, people were saying that they were enjoying it. So, things like amazing and very valuable stuff from what they got out of the summit. So again, that's $7, and you have access through tomorrow. Now you might be saying, well, but I want access beyond that. So if you sign up, if you haven't signed up yet, you can upgrade your ticket to VIP, which I would highly recommend doing right after you purchase the $7 ticket. Like on the next page, you can do that. If you are already part of the summit and you want to keep your access ongoing, well, what you can do, you can go to maximizingecommerce.com/VIP. So that means you're a very important person. Everyone's important, but if you upgrade your ticket to a VIP ticket, you'll have ongoing access to the summit. If you do this between now and tomorrow, as I record this, so Saturday Eastern time at midnight, you'd get 50% off of what the price will end up being. So it's $97 right now to upgrade to VIP, but you would get it. It's $97 right now, but if you wait until after the summit's over, it'll be $197. And after the last summit, people still bought it at the higher price right afterwards. So take advantage of that. And if you're watching this live, you can still join us we have a VIP Q&A session going on here briefly, which will be at 2:00 Eastern time. So that'll be in about 50 minutes. You can still join us if you're catching this like pretty much live. I send out that link to that about 20 minutes ahead of time. So if you sign up before then, the system will know to send you that link. You can get that, and you get a $50 credit to our sponsor PickFu, which we send out about a week or two after the fact. So if that sounds of interest to you, then do that. So we got folks coming in here with some questions and comments. So Abdullah said, great. Muhammad said, hey, man. Hey, Muhammad, how are you? Sawyer said, worth the VIP. Thank you. Yeah. And if you think about it, just the fact that you can always go back and rewatch the sessions. I do get one complaint every single time I do these summits, and that's too much stuff. Somebody in the Facebook group had mentioned the sessions are too long. It's too much. And somebody wrote back and was like, yeah, but they're awesome. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate both, sets of feedback, but that's why we do provide the VIP tickets. So you can get ongoing access. And you can also, as I mentioned before, get the $50 PickFu credit. I mean, that's like good as cash. So if you're paying, let's say you pay $97 to upgrade to VIP, you're talking about if you would have potentially run a poll on PickFu, which is pretty cool. Like you can say, hey, which image is better, and get real feedback, not just like, based on conversion rates or stuff like that, but like people have to vote which is better, and they have to tell you why. And what's interesting is the folks at PickFu, so Anthony Cofrancesco is one of the speakers, and he was mentioning to me that like, if they don't give as good of quality answers, like they have scores or whatever, like I'm probably butchering the exact system, but simplistically, the people who are filling out these polls, it's kind of like a part-time job or something they enjoy doing. They can make a little extra money on the side. And if they don't give good, concise, meaty enough answers, so they just say great, as opposed to I liked version B better because of this reason, blah, 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 blah. Whereas version A had, something, if they don't give good answers like that, they might not get to keep doing this. So they're incentivized to make sure that they're giving good answers. So you get both qualitative and quantitative data, and you get $50 towards a poll. And I think their base poll is $50. So it's basically a free poll. There's also bells and whistles you can add on, like having more options to fill out or more targeted people and things of that nature, which sometimes is definitely worth doing. And I'm going to throw this out there real quick. I ran a poll on PickFu, and it ended up being worth it because ecombuildersummit.com, I was choosing between 3 different domains that I picked out in GoDaddy, and I had Ecom Biz Summit, B-I-Z, and people voted on this one, and a lot of people said that the B-I-Z sounded cheap and kind of spammy. And so I was like, I wouldn't have thought about that on my own, but I want to know what potential customers might have thought about it. And so biz seems too much like biz op or whatever. So people didn't like that. So I ended up going with Ecom Builder Summit for, if you go to Ecom Builder Summit, it forwards to another link, but I was able to pick that URL based on real feedback. And, I did it for product images on one of my main products, and it helped me be more confident that I was using the best possible images, and why, because people were explaining it. So it's not just the data of like, this versus that, which do you like better, but they're saying why. And so I really liked that. So again, $50 credit to PickFu if you upgrade to VIP, and I would recommend doing it soon. As Sawyer said, again, thank you, Sawyer, for the shout out there. Worth the price, and you have lifetime access, whatever lifetime means. I don't truly know. As long as the servers are still going over at Vimeo, where I'm hosting the videos, and Kartra is still up and running, I have no desire to take these down in any way, shape, or form in any near future. So you have the ability to go ongoing with them. So super excited. And let me just check one other thing here real quick. And what else can we talk about here? So I hope my guest is able to join us. It could be issues with internet or something like that. That's what happens when you do things live. And so I hope that they're able to join us, but if not, we're going to make the best of this live, and we're going to make it beneficial for you. So one of the things that I like to talk about is, with summits like this, you feel like you're drinking a lot from the fire hose. So, do you feel like if you've been drinking from the fire hose of knowledge that there's just a lot to take in? And so, one of the things I would caution folks is, let's say you have the general admission ticket, and let's say you don't want to upgrade to VIP. I would recommend you upgrade to VIP, but that's your choice. And I respect that if you decide you just want to stick with the general admission ticket and utilize the time you have today and tomorrow to view the content. I would say do this. Decide, now that you've had a chance to see what all sessions are available, and you probably had a chance to watch some of the sessions, which are the ones that are the most impactful. So, what you want to look at is what will move your business. I almost said biz, but I said that. I learned that sounds cheap. So I won't just say BIZ. Forward. So of all the things you can do, so what ends up happening is after a summit like this, oftentimes we get really excited. Like, oh wow, this person said I need to do this, and there was the lady with the 5.5 million visitors on TikTok, Eugenia. She said that I should focus on TikTok. And Kim Meckwood from Click and Carry, she's been on QVC 12 almost 13 times now. She's probably going on again here soon. I should focus on getting on QVC. And then this other person said start a blog post, and this other person said do this. And so you got to decide where are you now and what's going to get you closer. And so some things are, you got to look at it both short term and long term. So as Stephen Covey from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about, you have tasks that are both urgent and important, urgent, not important, and urgent and or not important but urgent. And oftentimes we end up with the tasks that are very urgent, like they need our attention right now, but we miss the tasks that are important but not necessarily urgent. So that's kind of the things that like you'd look back in a year from now and future you will thank you for doing what you do today. So it's kind of planting seeds. It's not urgent, but it needs to get done. And if you don't do it, there won't be a harvest. So, they always talk about, we reap what we sow. So if you don't sow the seeds, as Jim Rowe would say, don't come to the land and say, give me, this is what I need. The land says, give me your seed. And so you got to give your seed and figure out what are those things that will help you long term. But you don't want to get too wrapped up in like all the, oh, this might. What are those things that you think based on your goals are going to get you closer? So those, I would challenge you on, pick a couple of things that might be more long-term focused, but then also what are the things that are going to help you in the short term? So, think about what is your seasonality. So for some people, it's going to be Q4. So think about fourth quarter coming up here. So here we are. It is, as I record this, I actually have to look. It's July 30th. I'm like looking down. I'm like, what's today? Is it May 12th? Is it August 15th? I don't know. No, it's July 30th. So it's July 30th. So that means, yeah, we're still in the first month of the third quarter, technically. But Q4 is going to be around the corner before we know it. Like, I'm going to start ordering my replenishment inventory for Q4, not like what I plan to have starting, Black Friday with the stuff that'll be replenishing once, stuff starts moving. I got to start planning that far in advance. That the stuff that's going to start carrying me beyond Q4, I'm starting to order now. So I feel like we have to get farther ahead because, have you noticed this too, where it seems like the supply chain takes longer? So I got to start focusing on Q4. So what are the things that are going to help you in Q4? So you can think about the long term and then the shorter term. Short term might be, hey, I can implement new ad strategies and start seeing results next week. That's great. So you've got your kind of, let's say that might be a short term thing. Focusing on Q4 might be more of a medium term thing. But again, the actions you take today could have a huge effect on your results in Q4. I sometimes have had years where November and December will outdo the rest of the year in my business. Now, I have some gifts or some giftable type items that I sell, so that tends to help me. So then, you want to look at not just the short term, the medium term, but then maybe what are the long term things? So, maybe you want to start building an audience of people because you got really excited from maybe Scott Volker and Steve Chu and Tony Anderson, all their, and Chris Schaefer, who, if you're a VIP here in about a half hour, you can check out a VIP Q&A session with my good buddy, Chris Schaefer. You can check all of that out. So, but anyway, you might be saying to yourself, I'm really excited about the concept. Oh, and Mike Jackness too had a really good talk on that. I'm trying to think who else had a really good talk on the concept of driving outside traffic. And so you might be saying, yeah, there's things I want to do, whether it's email lists, get a blog, work with influencers, whatever. These are things that tend to be a little bit more long-term. I can tell you from personal experience, you don't see results right away. Like, when I first built my YouTube channel, my mom was one of my first subscribers. I think she was probably in the first 5. So it helped, so it wasn't zero, but now I have like 2,400-ish subscribers, which is not huge by YouTube standards, but at least it, I feel like it's a little bit more credible. Whereas it's the same thing. When you start out, you're going to be like, okay, it's going to be talking into an empty room. But here's the thing to remember for those more long-term type strategies, literally everyone you're looking at was in that same situation you are. They were having to decide where to plant their seeds and keep moving. And they persevered. And that's probably why you see them doing as well as they're doing with those kind of things. So that's definitely something to keep in mind there. So, well, again, what I would do is say, break everything into what's going to move your business forward for shorts. And short term, oftentimes, is going back to the whole Stephen Covey example. That might be things that you might have to stop some bleeding. So you might be looking more into the urgent kind of putting out fire things. Maybe your ACOS is going through the chart. Somebody in one of the VIP sessions mentioned that the other day, that their ACOS was like, all of a sudden going through the roof. It'd been going really well, then all of a sudden it's going crazy. And maybe this is just a seasonal blip. Sometimes we can't get too caught up in like, oh my God, the sky's falling. It can feel like that sometimes, but we got to take some sort of action to rectify the situation, but also recognize, here we are in July. People are out doing things, not necessarily, being online, buying things. So they might be more likely to go to the store than they were a year ago. And so that could be affecting your business in some ways. Next, we want to focus on the medium, which, let's say, 3-4 months out. So what are the things you could do to start preparing for Q4? Whether it's, inventory is one of those things, but I would challenge you, don't get too just wrapped up in, what are those inventory type things you could do? Because that's a little bit of just kind of the urgent. It's the urgent for the future. But what are the things you could do? Maybe start looking into like, maybe you want to do different promotional strategies, or maybe you want to do some different campaigns, or start finding some different keywords to go after that you think might be more beneficial in Q4. So those are some things to think about. So you want to focus on what can you do to maximize Q4, or maybe getting on Walmart might be a way to drive some more sales during Q4. And so Walmart, I would say, it probably is not going to take you a year to get results. I'm not seeing huge results on Walmart, but I am challenging myself to, as Harry Walensky from the summit, gave a good presentation on that. I go back and I have my assistant watch it, and I watch it again, just because I'm trying to figure out Walmart. I think Walmart has a good long-term potential, but it also has medium-term potential to grow things in the medium term. So it doesn't have to be like, hey, if I do things now, maybe in 2-3 years, I start seeing sales out of it. You can get sales out of it. So I would say Walmart maybe is one of those things that's in that medium range, or just finding another platform, or, I'll just throw this out there. I haven't really talked much about this in the summit, but selling internationally could be a great way to do it. Like maybe adding on Canada or the UK. If you start working on it today, I don't see any reason. Now, granted, there's things outside of you and I's control with government registrations and things of that nature, but I don't see any reason why, if you started working on it today, you couldn't be selling internationally in, let's say, Canada and the UK for Q4. And for me, that was pretty significant amount of sales I added on top of my my US sales. I should probably do a presentation on that here soon. But yeah, if you need help with the international part, shoot me a direct message. I have a couple different options that I could potentially help you with. I don't want to go too deep in the weeds on that. But that is an option for you if you want to help, or just subscribe to Maximizing E-commerce YouTube channel. And I've got lots of international type of how to get started selling in Canada, how to sell in the UK, how to sell in Australia. You start watching a couple of videos, and YouTube will probably just keep recommending them to you. So that's an option too. So, what are the things that are going to move the ball forward in the medium term, and weigh out what the time might be versus what the results might be. I think international could be one of the biggest benefits you could have to maximize something like Q4. Now, you might be saying to yourself, but yeah, I tend to do better sales in spring. So you just came out of, because maybe you're gardening niche or something like that. So you're coming on the tail end of your busy season. Maybe you see a little bit of a bump during the holiday season, but not as much as you might in March or April. So you could start thinking of, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well, what are some topics that we went over in the summit that maybe would help you take things to the next level for your next peak season, whether it's Q4 or something else. I know for some people, they're just now starting their peak season because they're back to school. So they're going crazy because, people are buying backpacks and shoes and school supplies and all that other kind of stuff. And there's a million different things it could be that are back to school related. And then, challenge yourself. What are some long-term things? This is where sometimes we can get ourselves in a rut. And I say a rut because we get so excited. I could do this and this and this and this. Now, I would write out like what are the things you'd like to do for the long term for your business? Like whether it's something you learned about in this summit or not. What are some things you could do? And so I would focus on what are some long-term strategies you can implement, and maybe do the old Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson. I don't know who actually came up with this, but this is one of those things you hear about where you've put like a T, and on one side you put the pros and the other side you put the cons of doing something. I would also put in like, what are your potential results that you think you might get out of something like that? Like, and I would make sure that it's very result focused, and how much time would it be? So a con is going to be time no matter what, or, your financial investment you're going to have to make. And that was the word I was looking for. So your financial investment, you'd have to look into something, as well as, what is the financial benefit you would get out of it? And what can you maybe reinvest out of that? So, look into some of these more long-term strategies like a blog or email list or things like that. But if you don't start working on them today, you won't have them in the future. But here's the challenge. Here's the flip side, the double-edged sword here, that you got to make sure it's something you're going to be motivated to do. And that it makes sense for where you're at and what your goals are. So not just because you were super excited because, one of the speakers was like, they really sold you on this idea. Like, and that's great. And I only brought in quality speakers. So, chances are they sell me on these ideas too, but then I have to go back and kind of ground myself like, okay, what's going to make the biggest difference, for the short, medium, and long term, and then start focusing on things. But something that's long term, you got to make sure it's something you're going to stay motivated towards. Because generally speaking, these more long-term type strategies, you're not going to see the type of results that will keep you motivated initially. So you have to remind yourself and write it out that I'm going to do this for a minimum of 100 days or whatever the case is. Because it may take you a while to get the results to come back. Now, one of the things that for those of us who are selling on Amazon, we are blessed because literally you can put a product out there and start seeing sales right away. I remember when I first dabbled in, retail arbitrage on Amazon about 6 years ago, literally the day stock arrived into a warehouse, I made a sale that night. And so that's not normal with most things in life where you can get results quite that quickly. So, just understand some of the more long-term strategies can have very big upside and help you with goals like diversifying revenue and not being as reliant on, let's say, PPC or things like that. But you're not going to see results. Like, you start a podcast, it's you're talking into basically an empty room at first. You start a YouTube channel, your mom, like mine, will be one of your first subscribers. Just a lot of things like that. When you first start out, you're starting at zero. Now, granted, everyone starts out at zero. Don't get too wrapped up in when you're on these long-term strategies of trying to compare your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 49 or whatever the case is. So just understand where you're at, and all those people were there sometime before. So things to keep in mind. So Let me know if you have any questions that you'd like answers to, or just comments, things of that nature. Who knows? Maybe we'll give something away along the way too. So just jot it down in the chat, and it doesn't matter if it's YouTube or Facebook. What are you trying to figure out? I apologize that my guest did not arrive yet, but I want to still make this a valuable use of your time. So hopefully some of these examples I gave and these frameworks and ways of thinking about things were beneficial to you. And I also want to be able to answer some questions for you. So, link is in your inbox. All right. So, it's been a lot of fun, and it looks like I got a comment in here. So let me, all right. So Abdullah says, how to avoid procrastination. Yeah, no, I got what you meant there. So that's a great question. And so some of it is you have to, sometimes, there's the whole, avoid procrastination. Like, I've been the biggest procrastinator my whole life. I got through, I don't know if I ever would have gotten through, high school and college if there weren't deadlines of some sort. Like deadlines like, oh, okay, there's going to be a whatchamacallit, a test tomorrow, or this is due the next day. So the more you can create deadlines for yourself, and maybe some even checkpoints that are important deadlines, the better off you're going to be. And so a couple examples to that might be, so we'll use Q4 as an example. You might just have to reverse engineer. And I think reverse engineering whatever your goals are one of the best ways to do that. And so you might say to yourself, like, okay, if I want to have the stock, I need to order it by this day. If I want to have a certain promotion up and running, I need to have it done by this day, because you don't want to be on Black Friday and trying to figure this stuff out. So that's one way you could do it. Now, outside of Q4, and you want to write out too, sometimes if you don't do it, what will happen? So if I don't order for Q4 by X date, then I won't have the inventory. I will run out of stock, and I will miss out until the following year's Q4, if that's your beneficial time. So that's one way to do it. Creating deadlines is just, it works. So for me, I'll just use myself. So I look at myself, what are my strengths and weaknesses? And one of the reasons I like doing events like this is because it forces me to get it done. I have to ship the product, so to speak. If I say, hey, we're going to start on July 27th, I don't want to email everybody and say, oh, I'm sorry, it's just been busy, I just haven't been feeling it, so we're going to do it next week. No, some people like literally take off work to watch these summits. Like, people have, given me their trust that I'm going to have, the content we're going to have over the dates we're going to have. So I got to make sure I'm upholding my end of the bargain. And so I would say create some way that there is a negative repercussion if you don't do it. So if you're having trouble with procrastination, set up more blocks of kind of, if you think about, if you're a project manager, you wouldn't just say, all right, the project has to be done by X day. No, you'd have all these checkpoints like, if you ever heard of a Gantt chart, look it up. But basically it's like, like a timeline of when certain things have to be done, understand there's certain contingencies, meaning if I don't do this, then I won't be able to do the next step. And so you want to be able to do, steps 1 and 2 so that you're able to do the next steps. So that is definitely something to keep in mind there. And then what else? So when it comes to procrastination, I think some of it is everyone wants to beat procrastination, but we all end up procrastinating. So find ways to, it's better sometimes to work with the stream than against the stream. So if your brain works with procrastination, just know that and find ways to make it work, because you can, as long as you're clear with yourself, and especially what the benefits of doing something and the repercussions of not doing something, then all of a sudden you'll find yourself doing a lot more. That's I have found anyway. Sawyer says, is merchant fulfilled worth it in your eyes? So I guess that just depends. One thing I would say is I would probably, with a lot of the inventory issues that are going on in I would venture to say you probably want to start looking into some merchant fulfilled capabilities as a backup to FBA. And so, like I have some clients that I work with that they produce their own products. So like for them, there's the MOQ is one. So in some cases, like they'll create a product as FBM, and if it sells well enough at FBM, they're figure like, oh, okay, well then if we get some sales out of FBM, then let's create more and create an FBA offer and send it in. So they're able to send it in as kind of a test. So if you have that ability to, maybe you're not creating your own products, but there's something you can do to test something out, FBM might be a good way to do it, or send small amounts in FBA. So I know that kind of goes in a little bit of a tangent from what you're asking. But FBM can be a good backup to FBA. I always suggest doing FBA if you can. You know, I think some people a year and a half ago would have said never do FBM, but then all of a sudden, you know, when Amazon started saying, well, no, you can't have your products in stock. That definitely affected things. Because, you know, somebody like me who has non-essential goods, for what the definitions were a year ago, that definitely hurt things. So I would say merchant fulfilled could be a good backup, but you know, when we're trying to figure out where to focus your time, is it something that could help you in the short to medium term? Maybe. It might be a way to look into it. So we produce our own, we do both FBM and FBA. So yeah, I would say you're probably doing the right thing. And for things that if you're producing your own and you're not subject to MOQ, it's the model I love, because everyone's focusing on the big hero products. But if you're doing your own stuff and you have ways of creating listings that fly under the radar because everybody's looking at the same filters and Helium 10 and Jungle Scout or whatever else, you can fly under the radar and have a very successful business with just a larger portfolio of products. But you know, they're all kind of drops in the bucket, and FBM could be a good way to either have backup for like, you know, maybe you don't want to send too much into FBA at once. And so maybe there's a little bit of a lag sometimes. So it's just in case, you know, while inventory's waiting to be checked in or something like that, you know, you could have FBM as the backup. So I would say that's definitely worth it. All right. So next up, how you evaluate product for launch, what's criteria you follow, keep consideration, Amazon. So, yeah, so mine is a lot different than a lot of other people's. So here's what I like. So I have a done for you service where I help people launch into international marketplaces, and it's not inexpensive. The value of it is actually pretty darn good, considering, you know, the return on investment most people are able to get by launching to other marketplaces, and then they don't have to worry about it. So it attracts people that are at a certain level, like high 6 figures, 7-figure plus sellers, generally who the let's say client avatar is for that. If that's you, message me. We'll see if that's a good fit. If not, no worries. But really, the whole point of bringing this up is I see what other people are doing. And I can tell you a lot of the people who are successful that fit into that bucket of being able to launch into other marketplaces, and are at that, you know, multiple, you know, high multiple 6-figure or 7-figure plus mark. A lot of them are not just one hero product. There are people who do, and sometimes I'll meet someone like that, and a year later they're not in the game anymore. Whereas people that oftentimes have long-term sustainable businesses have these businesses that no one would even pay any attention to. No one would even want to copy because it doesn't fit a lot of the criteria everyone else is doing, because they have maybe 100 SKUs. And, you know, if each of those SKUs are selling 2 a day, well, that's 200 units a day. But nobody goes after products that are selling at 2 a day, but they were able to find ways. So you might be thinking like, well, how would you make that work? So let's just say you have a widget. Let's say the best way to get myself here. So, all right. So let's say you have a widget sometimes people want to go after the one that's selling. That one's not doing so good. All right. So let's say people want to go after the thing that's selling 30 a day. But what if you can get a product where it's like all the base product, where you have, whether it's parent-children variations or just different versions, where maybe you have 10. That's not 10, but let's just say they're all kind of the same base product, but you just did something to change them up. So like apparel, it's fairly easy because you put a different design on it or color. I don't want to give away what I know people are doing, but let's just say there's a lot you could do. Maybe you have a different color handle on your garlic press, for example. Just little things you could do where maybe each product is only getting, let's say that's 10, 3 a day times 10, that's 30. And this one, it's 30. Now let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you want to launch this one, you're gonna have a lot more competition, because if it's a product that's doing 30 a day, that's great. And it's probably going to be less work for you because you're only gonna have to create one listing and all this stuff. But there's probably a lot of copy. You can kind of template for all of these. You can make kind of a process to, it's not probably going to be 10 times more work to create photos and stuff like that. So if you're hiring a photographer, for example, maybe you only spend twice as much time, because whatever shots you're setting up, you just kind of swap out, version A, version B, whatever. And oftentimes you can even start bundling some of these. So maybe these 3 versions you bundle together. And so instead of 10 SKUs, maybe now you have like 20 very, very easily. And, maybe those are only selling, those bundles, maybe 1 or 2 a day, or, maybe it's selling 4 a week, but that's okay. At the end of the day, what really matters is you're putting money in, and how much money do you have coming out of the backside? And so what everyone's trying to, I don't want to say everybody, there's a lot of people are selling, and it's still a valid business model. I'm not taking that away, where, you go after a product that's selling this many units a day, but there's how many products are selling on Amazon? Think about it. Like, there's in every how many categories are there? And in each category, there's probably, 4 million products. Now, some of those products sell 1 unit a year. You don't want to go after that. But some of them, might be selling much smaller units, but you can still do well. So just keep that in mind. Do you have the ability to go wide is kind of my idea. And I've seen it work with a lot of people, and it's not a strategy a lot of people talk about, and you tend to fly under the radar. If this listing gets taken down, and that's your whole business, well, if it takes you 10 days to get it back up, you just lost 10 days of sale. If this listing here gets taken down, well, you got the rest of them to keep your business afloat. And so it doesn't affect you quite as much. Another reason why I like that kind of general strategy. Yes, it's a little bit more work. Yes, it takes more to maintain, but most of the same keywords that will work if they're similar type products, a lot of the carry over. And sometimes people that will buy this will on their own buy this, because Amazon might even recommend it just because it's similar. So that's one of my little suggestions. So can you go wide on that product? And maybe it's not something you do right away, but oftentimes if you just ask your factory, hey, what are some alternative versions of that product we can do? And maybe instead of an MOQ of 1,000 per product, they say, yeah, just do it MOQ of 1,000 total. So if you want 10, you need to order 100 units of each, whatever the math ends up working out to be. I like that strategy. Again, more work. Not everyone likes that. Not everyone talks about it. It's not as sexy, but I tend to find it works for me, and I've seen it work for a lot of other people too. So maybe it's just because I have gotten to see a little bit more behind the curtain, because I get access to people's accounts that are selling. They're my clients for my international done for you service. So I've seen a lot more of kind of what works. Not to say this isn't a good model. I just tell you, a lot of times with people with, if it's selling 100, 200 units a day, they're stressed out of their mind. that it's going to be taken away. Whereas these people then generally tend to be less worried about that, because it seems like Amazon lately, as long as you're playing somewhat by the book, which is best as you can, I recommend doing, oftentimes you're going to be fine. So would FBM expanding to Canada be capable, or is FBA best way to go? If you can do FBA, I would do FBA. Maybe have a FBM warehouse. Right now, Canada is crazy with how low their inventory that they're allowing you to have is, and some of it is just because they're building more warehouses, and a lot of the local health officials have taken away their the amount of staff they can have just because of COVID. So, and this is a relatively new phenomenon just within the last few months. So like last year when everything was on fire in the US, Canada was great. I didn't have any problems there. But I think just because, they're having to like super social distance and have to have fewer people in their warehouses, they had to shut down one of their warehouses for 2 weeks, fulfillment centers, I should say. So there's a lot going on there that you can't send all that much. I think eventually that's going to turn around. And I think those exact challenges are why somebody should sell in Canada, because it's going to be more beneficial long-term. Now you can do FBM where it ships from the US to test it out. That's one thing you could do. The thing I would say about that, just caution there, is, you really have to raise your price to make it worth your while, because individual shipments going across the border are going to be expensive. Whereas, it's kind of like the whole economies of scale if you send stuff across the border. So if you're going to do FBM, yeah, if you have the ability to do it in the US, maybe you test it out a little bit just to test the market. And if people are willing to pay, like, let's say twice the price of what you might pay, or you might charge for just if it was local FBA inventory, because the economies of scale work out that way. Then if you get some sales of that, then chances are you might see 5-10 times the sales with FBA, from what I've seen for a lot of people. Abdullah said, great answer. My pleasure. And then Sawyer said, how can I get a large FBA restock limit sooner than later? If you figure it out, I want you to, if anyone figures it out, let me know. I mean, I've sent in all kinds of emails to Amazon. I've yet to see them turn anything around, give it anything other than a very cut and paste answer. And that doesn't matter to the marketplace, US, Canada, UK, Europe, wherever. I mean, it's always pretty much basically in a polite corporate speak, no. But I think that's all going to have to turn around. Like, remember, Amazon's going through like rocket ship growth right now. So sometimes it's, finding warehouses to work with in other countries. If you need a recommendation, shoot me an email. I thought so. Yeah. Again, if you find out how to get the higher restock limits, let me know. And trust me, if somebody figures out like these are the trigger words you use, suddenly Amazon's going to get bombarded with cases of people saying, blah, blah, blah for X reason. But as of right now, I don't know that there's any trick. I just think it's one of those things we just have to wait for. Like, I know they're investing tons of money in more fulfillment centers and more automated processes. So some of it we just have to kind of play wait and see on. So I wish I had a better answer. So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to drop them in. I'm going to take a quick little drink here. So all right. So with that, let's see what else we got. So just as a reminder, probably here in a couple hours, I'm going to turn it off just because I feel kind of weird. Like, if there's less than 24 hours left, selling tickets to the e-commerce business builder summit. But I do feel strongly, because I asked every single speaker to come with at least 100 times the value that someone would pay for the ticket. And, the feedback's all been very positive. So if you've not yet grabbed your ticket, and for $7 you can get access for now, which is Friday afternoon through midnight Eastern time tomorrow night. So that's 34 hours of access for $7 to over 30 speaker sessions. And you can also upgrade to VIP if you'd like. And if you've not already upgraded to VIP and you already have your ticket, I would highly recommend doing so. For just $97, you can get access to the VIP access to the summit. So super exciting thing. So, all right. So someone else said how to sell high price item without GAs, without your recommendation. I'm not sure what you mean by GA. Sorry. Camilla, do you have any advice for someone who's just starting on Amazon? Just get started. Don't worry too much about like, oh, all the gurus said to do this. Just get started. If you haven't dabbled in retail arbitrage, do that. Like I would say spend $50 or whatever you can spend money on. Get out there this weekend and buy stuff. I mean, you can scan barcodes on your phone, and you're going to learn so much about like, how to package stuff, how things actually work. When you're in the arena, when you're in the pool, you learn how to swim better than if you're, reading blog posts and listening to Kevin and live sessions, which as much as it's great, coming to summits and stuff like that. You also want to just get your hands dirty, so to speak. Give always. Oh, how to sell high price item without give always. What's your recommendation? Oh, the giveaway. Oh, giveaway. It was giveaways, not give always. Kevin, learn how to read. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I would say go after ones that are not quite as competitive. It flies under the radar. If you can fly under the radar, there's a lot. People aren't doing giveaways to stay on page one here, but oftentimes your competition is. So I recommend, if you can stay away from giveaways and 100% rebates, to do that. So anyway, my thought process here. So this has been a lot of fun. If you have a VIP ticket already, you probably have an email with a link to a 2:00 session, which will be starting here in just a few minutes as we record this. If you're watching this in the future, pay no attention to what I just said there. But as much as if you have a general admission ticket, you can grab access, or you'd have access to the summit through tomorrow, Saturday, July 31st at midnight. You can get upgrade to VIP access. The special deal I have going on VIP access will be going away tomorrow at midnight. So if you want access at a 50% discount, and get the $50 PickFu credit, you better act now, because come midnight tomorrow night, that all goes away. So for those of you who are VIP, I hope to see you in 5 minutes in the VIP Q&A session. And from there, I wish you the best. So for those of you who maybe this might be one of your last live sessions of the summit, if you are not already subscribed on YouTube, subscribe to Maximizing E-commerce on YouTube. If you're in the Facebook watching this Facebook group, thank you for joining the group. If you're not in the group, if you're not already in the Maximizing E-commerce list, I would definitely do that. So more than anything, I wish you the best. So anyway, I'm going to run, and take care, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.